Are you a rugged individualist? Are you a John Wayne type? Now, I actually don't mean to be sexist, but I mean a John Wayne type of person. You know, the kind of person that will take a pill for a headache rather than stop work and stretch, or just struggles through and knows that you can get it done. Because some of my favorite rugged individualists are female. But why is being a rugged individualist so tantalizing and powerful for the person to take that role on? I use the word John Wayne because he was a popular movie character in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, so iconic of the rugged individualist. You know, he fought against the institutions, he bent the rules to make things happen. Where does this idea of the rugged individualist come from? It's from the American West. When the early settlers and adventurers moved into the West, there was very little social infrastructure. There wasn't anything there. It was a big, wide open land, and they had to cope. They had to cope by themselves as individuals and as families and create their own homesteads. There was no social infrastructure. There was no dad around the corner or mum sitting in the living room to help. It was, well, I got to get it done. So they did. But this iconic idea of the rugged individualist has created some amazing problems in our modern world. You know, it's this kind of environment that I'm talking about from the Western frontier, both in Canada and the United States, or any frontier, gives us the idea or the belief that as an individual, or all individuals can succeed on their own, and that government help for people should be minimal. We don't need any help. We can do it. We can fix it. I want you to think about that for a moment, because it is such a myth to think that you can do it on your own in this modern, interconnected, dynamic world that we live in. Recently, my whole system crashed that I use for my recordings and for my emails, and I didn't know how to fix it. If I'd been a rugged individualist, maybe I would have put up smoke signals, but no, I hired an expert, and they came in and they showed me what it was and they fixed it. And I can say, honestly, I would not know how to do it. Our world today is so different from the American frontier or the Canadian frontier, and yet this myth of the rugged individualist, I mean, it is so appealing to be a John Wayne type or a Maureen O'Hara type, the kind of, well, you know, I'm independent and I can do this. But it's not true. It's not true anymore. It wasn't really true then. It was just portrayed in literature, in radio, and, of course, in film as something to be entertaining and uplifting, and yes, I can do it. It's so challenging when you meet a rugged individualist. You can offer them help, and they'll say, well, no, I'll kind of work it out. In fact, if you offer too much help, they'll just shut you down. This has been taken advantage of by, of course, marketers and advertisers who sort of portray women. I remember an ad I saw for Advil of a mother whose back obviously hurt and her neck obviously hurt, and she was working. And she just popped a couple of Advil and she was going to work another couple of hours because she was visioning her family. But that's how people get hurt. That's how people get sick. That's how people become addicted to the painkillers. It's that they use them once, they work, they use them again, they work. But then when the pain comes back, which is probably systemic or sympathetic to the job that they are doing, they don't stop and relax. They just pop a couple of pills and just get on with it. They're a rugged individualist. Now, they show this whether it is a man or a woman or even a child. Here, sometimes you have to stop, you have to rest, you have to reflect, and you have to restore yourself. But the rugged individualist doesn't do that. They just keep working on. I know, I was one. I'm not one now. I was one and I had a heart attack. Well, barely. I want to say that I prevented it, and I went to the hospital and they fixed my heart. So I didn't have a full-blown heart arrest, but I had everything but. So, are you a rugged individualist? When a family member offers help, do you kind of brush up, well, let me think about it? Or a neighbor says, have you tried this? You say, no, well, no. Today, more than ever, we live in a collective world, a world where our individual knowledge of our own technology or our own way of being is so long and thin that if I was to show a circle, you'd be just one little line on it. Just a little tiny segment. Recently, in talking to a specialist, I asked him about a particular thing, and he said, oh, no, I don't. I've only studied this area, but I know somebody who's studied this area, and I got a referral. So that's so odd. We're not generalists anymore. All of us are specialists. Marketing says, in business, says be a specialist, offer a special service. A generalist. Are you a rugged individualist? Again, it's an odd question. Are you? Do you automatically refuse help? Do you actually just brush it away? I want to keep asking you that question so that you will explore the cost to you and to the other person when you just brush them away. Myself, I love to be able to share what expertise I makes me feel good when people listen to me. Maybe that's why I do podcasts. But in that giving of what I know and how to do it and how to ask questions, I'm fulfilling part of my own personal sort of prophecy, if you want. So when you say no to someone else, are you shutting them off from an opportunity to do good for you and for themselves? Now, you don't always have to take advice, and you certainly don't have to ask for advice. I would never recommend that. But this whole idea of rugged individualism, I think, is perpetuated by those who have power and who have tremendous resources. I read a great article in researching for this podcast, and the article was Bankrupting Society. It was about, billionaires peddle the culture of rugged individualism, and in the process offer services that allow you to be. It was on the Milwaukee Independent. Now, if you want that, just send me an email and I'll send you the link. I'd be happy to do that. Our world is full in movies and in literature about the individual struggling to express themselves, to take control of their world, to be more than what they were, to somehow gain control. The false idea being, of course, that if you replace that with rugged individualism, that's the way to do it. You know, the great authors, we see their name either on a science paper or on a book or on a movie. But when you get deeper and ask those individuals, what did it take to do this? I am so surprised at the number of accolades and acknowledgments there are in books and in movies. You know, the director and the actor. But then you see all of the supporting staff. And in this digital age where we have so many amazing effects, if you let it run to see who actually contributed to the movie, it runs page after page after page. Hundreds, maybe even thousands of people are involved in producing the movie. If I was to do a movie of the Rugged Individualist, it would take tremendous resources to do. There would be the writers, the directors, the storyboard, the actors. And yet, as an individual, we value, or it seems that in our North American culture, we value this sort of idea of being a rugged individualist. It's a myth, by the way. You don't succeed on creating everything that you want on your own. It's not possible. Even me doing a solo podcast for you, I'm not doing it on my own. I'm using software, research, books, ideas, and the list would go on, and it would take half of the podcast to give it to you. But we have this myth. The myths are so enchanting, right? They are so powerful because you can see yourself heroically getting it done for your family or your daughter or your son or for your husband or for your wife or your spouse, for your partner. It gives us our ego, our id, a special mantle, a special way of looking in the world. Here we are. Oh, I did it. So, if you're like most people, born, raised, educated, moved out into the world, had bosses before you are the rugged individualist, let's count all the people that helped you. Well, maybe it was your mother, your father, your grandmother, your grandpa, your cousins. They all helped shape you before you were even 5 years old. Hey, rugged individualists, you're not even a rugged individualist. By the time you're maybe 6 or 7, your full personality starts to sprout. And notice the word I use, sprout. You're just starting to grow. And then as you get to school, you grow some more. You get bigger in mind, you get exposed to other ideas, to other people, and the way that they are. Maybe you go home to a friend's house and you have a different food. Never had Indian food before. Or maybe it's Chinese. Or maybe you're Chinese and you go to a house and they have liver and bacon. Oh my God, what is the world? Throughout our entire lives, people are adding to us. Sometimes we deliberately take it. We take it from a book or an idea or from a course that we take, we add this to us. We incorporate it in our minds and our ideas. Well, it's not your idea, but you're applying it. In doing this research, I came across a particular phrase, a particular quote by Martin Luther King. He remarked, "This country has socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor." I think about that. He, of course, was talking about America, and he was talking about the black struggle. We know that at the time that he wrote it, and even to a certain extent even now, the society was controlled by the higher white hierarchy. There was definitely not equal rights. And here he was talking about how individualism was the only way that a black person could grow. They could grow individually and up. Whereas that's not so for the white society in 1968 when he said this. There was all sorts of naturally evolving things for someone to be educated, to have wealth, to have social connections, to have access to so much more because, hey, they're white. So, rugged individualism, I'm getting a bit off track here. Rugged individualism has its origins in the American frontier experience. It happened in Canada too. It's happened in other countries too. Australians have a great rugged individualist kind of streak in them. Fishermen, I find, are natural rugged individualists because they're used to being coping with whatever is in front of them by themselves. It's when you don't notice that there is so much more for you to draw upon. And I also challenge anyone who says, yes, I'm a rugged individualist. Well, you're not. You didn't start out with who you are. There was all those people in your life, all that education, all those results, all those experiences that made you not an individual, but a collective of ideas and experiences and growth, which you call a rugged individualist. And because you believe, or perhaps you don't, but if you believe you're a rugged individualist, you are manipulative. In the sense you are manipulated, particularly by the Republican Party. The phrase itself is associated with the Republican Party, and it was used by one of the Republican presidents called Herbert Hoover. He challenged the world to have more rugged individualists. We don't need more rugged individualists. We need more people who are aware, who reach out, and who contribute as well as receive from the society that they live in. It's easy to think you're isolated and alone. In fact, it's sort of a victim place. Oh, why me? Poor me, I am alone. Well, actually, you're never alone. You can't live in our society without other people interacting with you, even when you don't know it. And so unless you are living in a wood cabin on a wild prairie with nobody within 500 miles of you, you're not a rugged individualist. You're just someone who bought into the myth of rugged individualism. And no, I don't mean to be insulting, but I'm hoping you will get into current reality. And maybe you are. And I hope you are. Let's have some fun with this. At different times in my life, I've thought I was a rugged individualist. I came from the United Kingdom wet behind the ears at 21 to Vancouver, British Columbia, 6,000 miles away from my family. Now, I did it on purpose because I actually wanted to get away from my family for a while. And I operated in the world as a rugged individualist until somebody said, "Do you want some help with that?" And then I started to realize that, yes, I do need help. And when I realized I needed help, it occurred to me other people probably need help too. And that changed everything for me. Rugged individualism. It's a myth. Nobody is a rugged individualist. You can be authentic, you can be real, you can show up in the world. Love and peace, Jeffrey.